This is the first time I've actually sat down to record a video in like almost half a year now. While I usually make videos like, top 9 tips for university, I wanted to make a video talking about everything the past, 3 years, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I plan to make a video like this at the end of every year for the foreseeable future. The reasoning behind that is because I feel like, generally speaking, transparency on the internet is a good thing and it allows people to learn from each other. But also, kind of selfishly, I feel like verbalizing everything will be therapeutic for me, and it'll be interesting kind of looking back on these kind of videos 5, 20, even 30 years from now. If this kind of video isn't for you, because it will be a lot more like rambly and it will probably end up being a lot longer, I've made loads of videos on studying, productivity, university, so feel free to have a cheeky gander at those videos. So, over the past 3-ish years, on top of COVID, I finished a bachelor's degree. I'm doing a master's degree, in which I'm roughly like dead on halfway at the minute. I've become an uncle. I've had stuff go on in my personal life, and I'll kind of leave that to your imagination. I started this YouTube channel, and I think most importantly, I have kind of taken more agency and control over my life. I think it makes sense to start or to categorize this video into 3 different sections. So firstly, I'll start off with like university related stuff and what I plan to do after I graduate. Then I'll talk about everything to do with the YouTube channel. It'll be more surface level stuff because I'll make a separate video just all about the YouTube and why I did it and all that kind of stuff later on. And then lastly, I will talk about mental health, personal growth, all that good stuff. Obviously, life is complex and these things never really happen in isolation, but I'll try to make the video kind of have continuity and have some kind of structure to it as well. For context, I studied sport and exercise science for my bachelor's degree. And for the majority of that degree, I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach, whereby even to this day, there's still aspects of that job which really appeal to me. However, while there were some people who were honest and open, I feel like a lot of people weren't as transparent as they could have been in regards to describing what it's actually like working in strength and conditioning. I've already covered a whole video on this already, but just to kind of summarize, in S&C, in strength and conditioning, at least when I looked and based on my read of the situation, job prospects weren't great, and even if you did get a job, pay wasn't great, you were overworked, there's not a lot of job security. Just in general, it doesn't really seem appealing unless you are obsessed about strength and conditioning and sport. And to be honest, I wasn't really that obsessed. And granted, I was a hard worker, I was a very hard worker, and I was interested, but I wasn't obsessed. The further down the S&C rabbit hole that I went, the more I felt trapped, and I kind of had a really pessimistic outlook on my career moving forward, and that's a feeling that I don't think anyone should have. So, despite getting a first class honours on my undergraduate degree and getting an offer to study strength and conditioning at Loughborough University, I deferred my offer, which basically means that I postponed when I would start the degree until the next academic year. Around this time, it was bang in the middle of the COVID pandemic. I was in my first apartment and I was by myself, and I just needed time to think. After a few months of basically going into monk mode, that's the only way I can describe it, I kind of decided to pivot with my career, and I felt like I was at a crossroads between looking into physiotherapy and looking into medicine. However, even though there are loads of aspects of medicine that are really appealing to me, and there were some parts of medicine like orthopedic surgery that really appealed to me and I found really interesting, I felt like working in medicine wasn't really conducive of having a good mental health, to put it bluntly. Like not that physiotherapy doesn't come with its challenges, but I felt like physiotherapy, it would give me more autonomy and more flexibility and better mental health, while also still being promising from a career point of view and allowing progression at the same time, because Lord knows you don't go into medicine if you want stability in your life. So since the start of this year, since the start of 2022, I have been doing an MSc pre-reg degree for physiotherapy at the University of Lincoln. And as I said before, I'm roughly halfway through my degree now. As of now, I'm pretty happy with my grades. I think I'm averaging about 75% as it stands by the end of my first year, which is just nuts, to be honest. Moving forward after my graduation, I'd like to work towards working in a musculoskeletal setting with physiotherapy, in an outpatient setting preferably, because I feel like that suits more my skill set and what I want from life. And I would also like to pursue lecturing as well. But after a few years of graduating, obviously, you know, I want some patient mileage and I want a lot of clinical experience before I start like telling others what to do. So yeah, so that's kind of my plan. Other than that, I'm just really going with the flow. As I've already said, I would say I'm a fairly hard worker. But you know, when I was doing my undergraduate degree, I was working hard, but I was also working stupid at the same time. What I mean by this is, no matter what process you use to complete a assignment or project, no matter what revision method you use to revise for something or to retain information, there's usually some tool, strategy, piece of information that can drastically improve your productivity without you actually having to put more time or energy into the thing that you're doing. Essentially, you've got more leverage, so therefore, or you're just more productive in general, so therefore you're getting more output for your input. For example, I've been using Notion for the past year and a bit to structure my university essays, which has helped me plan them out a lot better, which has definitely improved my grades for essays. Another example is typing. You know, this might seem very simple, but I learned touch typing and I improved, and I was dedicated to it. And I mean, I say dedicated. I was doing like an hour to a week on average, and that quickly dropped off. But you know, I was putting time towards it, and my typing speed went from 44 words per minute, or 40 words per minute realistically, when I was just like a woodpecker with my 2 index fingers, and then going to touch typing where my typing speed's like 80 to 90. And so I literally doubled my typing speed. So if you double your typing speed, you half the amount of time you're actually typing something. And logically, yes, this reduces time, or reduces the amount of time you're spending on whatever you're typing, but it also makes it more pleasurable, because the speed in which you're typing is actually more in line with the speed in which you think about ideas. That is something I never really thought about until I actually started typing faster. But it's just a little quick hack that can allow you to be more productive and to save time. So those are just a couple examples, but it's stuff like that which I've been focusing more on this past year and a half, to work smarter, be more strategic, increase the rate that I'm working without actually putting that much time into it. I'm just trying to work smarter, and I've definitely seen the fruits of my labor from doing that. And that's partly a lot of what I've been trying to drill down in my YouTube videos that I've been trying to deliver this past year and a half, and what I will continue to kind of say as as I move forward with the channel. So to kind of wrap up this section, the biggest piece of advice I would give for people is to spend 5% of your working time trying to adopt what's called the Pareto principle, and trying to find the best tools and strategies and information to work most effectively, whereby you're doing the top 20% of things, or you're doing 20% of the most effective things to get 80% of the results. Because if you can adopt this principle, consistently, then it's not far-fetched for your productivity and for your progress to improve by a magnitude of like 5 to 10 times. Next order of business, this YouTube channel. So around start of 2021, when I accepted the offer to study physiotherapy, I was very much umming and ahhing about starting a YouTube channel. After a lot of consideration, I decided that starting a YouTube channel was very in line with my values and what I wanted from life, and I'll cover more about this later on. And I decided to put all my chips in that direction and to commit to it. And I haven't really looked back since then. I did Ali Abdul's part-time YouTuber Academy, I think it's called, and I found it immensely useful with starting out. It was like a trampoline to kind of boost my progress at the start, and I've just been cracking on with the channel since then. But I think it's safe to say that I went on quite a big journey with my YouTube channel. The kind of content that I've wanted to do has changed, and I think that's kind of reflective of how much I've changed as a person. What I want from the channel has changed, and I'm sure that will continue to evolve over time. But even though stuff with my personal life and my master's degree that I'm doing has been taking up a lot more time that I would have liked to put towards the YouTube channel. And even though I haven't been as consistent with my YouTube videos as I would have possibly liked, I want it to have a large audience. I want it to be a self-sustaining business. I want my channel to, be a part of making content that is at a standard that I'm proud of. And I want it, at the end of the day, looking back on it, to make a positive difference in the world and in people's lives. Many people, they think about starting a YouTube channel, they get imposter syndrome, they think, who's going to want to listen to me? I need this fancy microphone or camera before I start. I need all the fancy bells and whistles, basically. And I'm going to level with you. Me and many other people have been doing YouTube will tell you that that is a myth. If you click on some of my most viewed videos, some of them are one of my most oldest videos, and even though it was filmed on my potato phone camera and it sounds like it just looks and sounds horrendous, people have still clearly derived value from those videos. Also, when you first start YouTube, if you're worried about people looking at your crappy videos, you're probably only going to get like 8 views on your first few videos, and half of that will be your friends and family, and the other half of it will be you refreshing the page consistently because you're worried about the video not being uploaded okay, and you want to make sure that the video looks okay, or at least that's what happened to me when I first started YouTube, so don't worry about it. So to wrap up this YouTube section, I think that while the Pareto principle I mentioned before is important, a lot of people who are passionate about a certain project that they want to start, they're forever in the planning stage of doing it. They're never actually executing it and giving it a go. But ironically, the fastest way to improve, because ultimately that's what you're trying to do, you're trying to improve so you can deliver content at a quality level that people want to watch, you need to plan, or strategize, however you want to word it, execute, probably fail, reflect on it, and then try again. My crappy videos, crappy blog posts, bad songs are not just important for success, they are necessary. Because if you don't make those mistakes and make those horrendous content, you're never going to know how to get better in the first place. So to wrap up this advice section, a quote that I quite like, and I think it's from James Clear, it's to be impatient with action, but patient with results. Gear your brain towards doing, execute, or should I say, plan, execute, readjust, and try again. Because success, half of the time, is just consistency with doing something. When I was gathering my thoughts for this section of the video, I didn't really know where to start because I want to be transparent. I want the things that I say to be beneficial for people, and I just feel like there's a lot to unpack. I think it makes sense to start with my childhood here for context, and while I won't go into detail for my own personal reasons, I think there were elements of my childhood that weren't great or weren't they weren't great for one's mental health. These elements, should we say, they impacted my self-esteem, my self-value, my confidence, the ways I view other people, the way I view myself, obviously, the way I view my own mistakes, and it just drastically changed how I view life. Your life experiences changed the lens or the tint and the glass in which you use to see life through, and it's important to recognize that. By the end of 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, I was in my first apartment and I was largely by myself. For many people in this situation, this would have been torture. However, as an introvert who really needed time to reflect, the conditions were perfect for me going into monk mode. You know, in my adolescent years, I realized the extent to the damage of my mental health and the emotional debt that I needed to pay. So I made the decision to put my mental health first. No more letting people walk all over me and ignore my boundaries. No more letting other people control or manipulate me. No more being disingenuous with my thoughts and emotions because I was scared of what the repercussions were. I decided to take responsibility for my life. You know, it wasn't anyone else's fault for why my life was the way that was, or why I felt the way that I did. You know, my life was mine to construct and to form. Throughout this time, I meditated and I went on walks every day, and it was around this time when I learned the value of meditation and mindfulness, which is still a staple in my everyday life now. I went to therapy, and I'm likely to speak to a psychiatrist in the coming months as well, eventually when I can get around to booking an appointment. I put time and effort towards my physical health. I learned how to cook tasty and healthy food. I sorted out my sleep. I was exercising regularly. I read books on self-improvement and how to deal with childhood trauma. I did almost everything in my power to look after myself. The way I just described what happened made it sound easy. It wasn't. I would have arguments, actually genuinely act out the arguments with people that weren't even there. I would have traumatic flashbacks when reading books on childhood trauma. I profusely sweated in the majority of my therapy sessions and in many social situations. And I cried. I cried a lot. And I got angry. I got frustrated and I got upset. And I'm one of the least reactive stoic people that I know. This time period was extremely emotionally raw for me, but it was necessary. To use an analogy of refurbishing a house, this time period wasn't adding in a sofa or a few cushions. It was gutting the house. It was taking out the mold and the rot and the neglected basement and the overgrown garden. It was serious work. It felt like work, and I doubt I will go through such a drastic rate of change of self-development and just change in general in such a short span of time. And I'm really grateful that I went through that change in my early 20s when my brain is more malleable to change and neuroplasticity is more accessible, should we say. Once I came out on the other side though, I discovered a sense of peace of mind and bliss that I never knew existed before. In my own mind, I established who I was, what my values were, what I wanted from life. I felt like I was in the flow state a lot more, and I was in control of my own emotions, and I kind of felt like the person I was always meant to be. Despite how strange that sounds though. Despite that though, I'm still working on myself over a year later. I still get into negative slumps, I still get into downward spirals, I still get into negative ways or negative patterns of thinking. I'm still susceptible to stress like any other person. I still make mistakes and still have beliefs about myself and the world that either don't serve me or aren't constructive. I am not perfect. I'm only human. But I decided to try and be the best man that I could be and to make a difference in the world that I was proud of. And I don't think I can expect any more of myself, despite what the perfectionist part of my brain tells me. To summarize this dumpster fire of a YouTube chapter and to give advice for anyone who has got to this point in the video, please go to therapy if you feel like you need it. Please practice meditation and mindfulness. Be kind and understanding to others, including yourself. Understand that your capacity for enjoyment in life and to help others is limited by the state of your mental and physical health. Understand that eventually everyone you know and love will die, and eventually people will forget who they were. Remember that there is a last time for everything. There is a last time you will hold your child. There's a last time that you will feel sunlight and wind on your face. There's a last time that you will tell someone you love them. So when you're getting into a negative pattern of thinking about a petty argument that you want to have with someone, ask yourself, is it really worth it? I'll leave that down to you. Most of all, understand that no one is a finished product and we're all going through our own journey with life, and that actually makes life interesting because it means that there's always something to do. There were many aspects to this video that I wanted to cover, but I feel like it's probably good if I leave it there. If somehow you're one of the 3 people that's made it this far in the video, just know that I really appreciate you. I appreciate you watching and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed this video, then you might enjoy the video I did here where I talk about how I improved my confidence. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you there. Adios amigos.